In this episode of On Their Terms, I speak to Nico Amaro. Now, I met Nico roughly 6 months ago, and the one thing that stood out to me the most at that time is his ability to create gold out of dirt. And we cover his journey, early days in insurance sales, to scaling multi-million dollar businesses. But the main areas of focus, we cover how one small shift in mindset pushed him from failing months on end to being number one in the team the following months by multiples. The strategies for building and scaling a publishing company that works with celebrity clients. We cover how to leverage AI in your sales processes and Nico's unique ability to connect with these high profile individuals. Now, whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just starting out, this episode is packed with actionable insights and stories. But just one more thing. You'll notice there are a few skips in there, particularly in the beginning. Nico was very free when we were on a call naming certain people and certain companies that he was working with. I had to cut those out, but let's just say there were some pretty big names in there. Enjoy.
Hey, Mr. James Lawrence. Good man. How are you?
I'm good. I like that painting.
Thank you.
What have we got? A panda in a suit.
Yeah, with the money.
Yeah.
Actually, I gotta change this. I'm putting like a vintage bookshelf behind, and I have so many. But I think I have a book problem. I order 1 to 2 books every couple of days, so I got a few. So we'll do that. Yeah, get some the awards and stuff in the background, and make it a little bit more official. But yeah, how are you doing?
I'm good. Just got back from a couple of weeks off.
You went to Scotland, yeah?
I went to Scotland. It was good. I was actually thinking about working over there, and I took a couple of calls, but not sales calls, just one-to-ones. But I was actually thinking about leading up to it, what you said about going to Mexico for a few weeks and just properly switching off.
Yeah.
And I was thinking on the back of that, I have not done that in a few years because I love what I do, and I think I don't really need to take the time off.
Yeah.
It was so nice.
You need it. Yeah. We don't realize we get so stuck in the grind, and we love it. But then when you take those weeks off, that disconnect is you come back so much more recharged.
I'm so fresh.
I'm a
lot more relaxed. I'm a lot more present on calls. It's nice.
Yeah, the presence is huge too. I agree with that entirely. You don't feel it. These last few weeks, man, I've been grinding like just a monster. Like I say, like 16 to 18 hours a day, up till 1, 2 in the morning, up at 6 or 7, just doing what needs to be done. And I was like, okay, everything was great for a while, and then it caught up. And now I'm just at a cellular level. I'm tired. I'm so tired. But we're actually going to head to Mexico October 1st. I'm going to go for a couple of weeks, trickle in a little bit of work, a little bit of not, and there's that disconnect that's very well needed.
Where do you go when you go to Mexico?
Well, it depends. Depends how the time of the year and what we're feeling. But I really love Puerto Vallarta. It's my favorite. And everyone likes Cancun and Tulum. I like Puerto Vallarta. I stay usually only in Airbnbs. I don't do the resorts. But they're usually like, you got a beautiful rooftop pool and everything's private, and it's just so much nicer, more romantic too with your partner, right? Yeah. So yeah, I enjoy it a lot, and it's just such a chill environment to work too, because you get to work right there on the beach. It's always waterfront, so you can't beat it. It's nice.
That was one of the places that I didn't end up getting to because I spoke to one person and they said, no, don't go there. It's it's not as nice as you think it would. Everyone else I've spoken to said it's just such a nice place to relax.
Oh man, James, I've been so many places, man. It's one of my favorite places still to this day to go, because also and I know you would appreciate this a lot too. It's the culture, it's the people. It's like the opposite of materialism. Like nobody there has a Mercedes. They don't care about that stuff. Me wearing this bracelet there is like massively overkill. Like nobody, I love that. I love how humble it is. You don't worry about those things, and everyone's just super nice. You hear a lot of dangerous stories about Mexico for sure, and especially in Australia. Like it's so far away, so people probably, right?
When I first went to Guatemala in 2018, I think it was, I remember it was just panic stations for my family, for my friends. They're like, you're going to get abducted. They're going to steal your kidneys. You will die. And I have some friends over there. I just said, it's not actually like that. But there was a part of me that was actually nervous.
Of course.
And you show up there, and it's such a culture shock to
Totally.
Australia, and there are people
Totally.
with shotguns and AKs just walking around, and I'd okay, all right, this is new, but then you realize the people are so lovely and
Yeah.
so kind. I felt safe there all of the time.
Totally.
Mm,
I say like I don't like my girl to go out on her own, of
mm,
course, especially in other countries, but it is so safe. Like it is so
mm,
safe. And the military roll around with the AKs and everything protecting you guys. That's what they're there for.
mm.
So yeah, it's cool. I think that if you guys do go, I think that you guys would really enjoy Tulum for a first time to Mexico. It's just
Oh,
there's
I've been
nothing
to
like it.
Mexico. I just haven't been to. I'm going to butcher the name. How did you say it again?
Puerto Vallarta.
That one.
Oh, so you've been to Tulum?
I've been to Tulum's right near Playa del Carmen, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
really close.
So I've been through that strip as well.
Okay, so you went to Cancun, all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. The other side is less tropical, more dry. Um,
Mm,
so it's really chill. And then Cabo in itself is like kind of like Arizona type of vibe. Um, so it's
okay.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So I live tropical all day, every day.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful spot. So typically when I travel, I go to places that because nowhere can really compete with this. It's
No.
unbelievably beautiful. So I'll go to places that are quite different. A lot of inland, and if I do go to the beach, I want it to be a little bit different.
Yeah. Totally. Like completely. I mean, you live in Melbourne, don't you?
No, I live in the Sunshine Coast in Queensland.
Oh, you live in Queensland. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So it's fucking gorgeous.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. You
It is.
can't.
We've got the beach 10 minutes that way, and then 15 minutes that way. Unbelievably beautiful tropical rainforests.
Oh, that's gorgeous. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't. So I see that when you travel, though, you want that contrast because over here we did not have that. So
Mm,
we like to go, to tropics and whatever. But I do enjoy the dry, like high humidity, all that kind of stuff. I like that too. So
mm.
yeah,
Yeah.
the disconnect is nice. I'm glad you got that though. I'm sure you feel so much better now.
So much better. The computer was in the bag for pretty much all of it.
That's wicked.
Even I thought, I'll do content, post, all of that sort of thing, and I thought, no, no, because as soon as I get on there, it's just an open loop. I'm going to keep going. I'm gonna comment, engage, and then an hour will be gone. So computer stayed in the bag. Um, it was awesome. It was
Oh,
awesome.
that's
But I
wicked.
think Scotland is a massive contrast to everything that
Why'd
I
you go
do.
there?
I had a wedding. One of my friends
Oh,
was getting
okay.
married in a castle over there.
Oh, that's wicked.
Oh, it was something. It was an
That's a cool
experience.
experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So you guys were there for what? You said 2 weeks, or did you travel around Europe a little bit?
Nah, 2 weeks.
Two
Two
weeks in
weeks.
Scotland.
I used to do longer. So I used to do months for trips and just work remote, and then last year did a 6 week trip to that was Mexico and Guatemala for a little bit, and I found it about week 3. I thought I want to go home.
Yeah, I
I was
miss
ready,
home.
and and
Totally.
the last few weeks were a bit of a drag. So then we did another trip end of last year. Was it end of last year? Yeah, for a few weeks, and we got to the 2 week mark, and I thought I could go home. That'd be yeah, I'm ready. And then this time we thought, all right, let's do 2 weeks and see how it feels. And it was perfect. We had a great time, and then by the time it was ready to fly home, it was perfect. And I think that's a good thing in that with the place that I live, and I've never had that in a place that I live and the kind of work that I do, in that I'm excited to go home and get back into it, but I'm always excited to come back here.
It's the same for me. A
Mm,
lot of people that I grew up with here, they're like, "Oh my god, I want to leave. I don't like this place. I don't." But yeah, you guys don't enjoy your work. You don't travel. You
mm,
don't do all these things. I am so elated to come home every time I come home. I'm so excited. Um,
mm,
but it's interesting to find that balance. And I agree with you entirely. Like I've gone on month-long trips, and it actually just becomes more of a headache at a
mm.
certain point. And you got, I don't know, you just get homesick, routine sick. I miss my routine, all those things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you. They actually did a study. It came out, I don't know, not that long ago, but they said that like for your brain and decompressing, detoxing from whatever it is that you're going through, there's nothing really more beneficial than 8 days. More than 8 days, they say it doesn't do much more to your brain, which I thought was interesting.
Mm. I read something else, and it wasn't a study. It was a little bit of bro science, and it was basically saying that the ideal trip for most people is 3 weeks. And now the first week is to forget about work. The second
Yep.
week is to enjoy. And the third week is to start to prep yourself for coming home. I don't know. I think that's kind of sad in that if you have to spend a whole week to try and forget
Prep.
about work and then prepare yourself for coming home.
Yeah, I don't. I wouldn't say it works that way for me. Like as soon as
Mm,
the day before the trip, I'm like, awesome, let's go, let's get this done. I don't need to decompress. But I don't think you and I need to decompress from what we
mm,
do. I
no.
I constantly, dude. I have a bit of a problem now. I get up at like 2, 3 in the morning to check my phone. I answer everybody on the Slack and I do all the things, and then I go back to bed for an hour naturally. But it's because I enjoy it. So
Mm.
I know a lot of people are not getting up at 2, 3 in the morning to like jump into work. I'm doing it. I enjoy it. So we're not. I think we're a little bit blessed that way.
Very fortunate.
Yes.
Very, very fortunate. But I was trying to think of a summary that would explain everything that you actually do. But
Yeah.
I figured you're going to be able to explain that a lot better than I can. So if you
Yeah.
had to give just an overarching arching summary of what you do, what would that be?
Super easy. I run a publishing company. That's
Okay.
it. So that is the overarching. That is what we do. So I publish authorities in their space, entrepreneurs, business owners, whatever. Actually, the timing of you and I's call is so beautiful because I just signed a client and we're starting him up on October 1st. He is. I'll send him to you. He is a dentist that does
Mm,
all these monsters in LA. He's old though, okay? He's very
mm,
old. Like he's got to be, man, 76, 78. Like he's old.
yeah.
But he is a proof of concept for me because I have a dentist in Colombia who is arguably the biggest veneer dentist in the world.
Mm,
And I want to do this for him. And so he wants to work with me, but I don't want to take him on. I've had him cooking for 6 months now, but
mm,
and he's old school. He speaks Spanish, old school. I'd fly down to Medellin and we would, do the business deal that way. He'd be one of the only clients that has to be done that way, which
mm.
is cool. And I appreciate that. But yeah, it's just, this guy's like kind of the stepping stone, which is funny that this guy's still a massive caliber dentist as the stepping stone. Um,
So I think just quickly, are you saying that your new client is in Medellin or the person that
no,
you know?
the person I know is in
Yeah.
Medellin. The person that is my prospect that wants to work with me that I have not sent a contract to sign, and I won't do it until I have proof of concept for this. Because essentially, James, what we've been doing, what I've been doing here, the last few months has been crazy. I It's funny that all the people I talk to, when I get them on these meetings, they're like, "I'm not looking to leave what I'm doing. I love what I'm doing." And I said, "That's perfectly fine. I'm not wanting you to do that, but I want you to come here and listen to what we have here, and maybe you can help me at some capacity. There's some sort of synergy." They all gravitate towards me after, and they want to work with
Mm,
me. I did this with. I have one of their COOs. She's my COO now. I have their CSO, so their chief sales officer, one of their from the Porcos. He's come over here and he bankrolls. He's crazy at what he does. And the conversation, there was so much synergy. Him and I are like almost the same person. It was really cool. He's 10 years older than me, but I have a lot of respect for the guy. But when we got on that call, it was like, two brothers, like, long lost brothers hitting it off. And it was just so much synergy. So it was really cool. So the law of attraction is going crazy here.
mm.
And so we've been signing some very high caliber clients. And the people that I have in my Rolodex right now, um,
That's such an old term in your Rolodex.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because the Rolodex doesn't actually exist anymore. But yeah, I mean, the people that we have that I can go speak with and have meetings with, it's just crazy. It's crazy. And right now I'm building the company to proof of concept so that, I can go and sign or, all these people and build them, info products or masterminds or literal physical products, things like that. So
Mm,
we're in the business really of building legacy for these clients. Like some of these clients are so high caliber, they don't give a shit if they made an extra $20 million a year. It literally does not matter. It's
mm,
like if you take, for example, I think it was Harvard. They built a course for him that they're offering at Harvard, and he blasts that all over all his stuff. He doesn't make much money from it, but for him, it's legacy. It's like he came from
mm.
the dirt and has built something that now is in Ivy League schools, and he's so proud of it. So that's kind of the angle we work with some of these guys. The other ones is just straight up cash flow, right? So what it is, a full white glove, front end to back, marketing, sales, building the sales teams, absolutely everything for them, building them an info product. All they have to worry about is their fulfillment, and we take the profit splits. I pay for all their ad spend up to 100,000 in revenue. Then it swaps. They get a higher profit split percentage than we do, but they pay for the ads. Our ad spend is extremely efficient. I'm getting book calls for like between $42 to $60. I fucking don't know anyone in the industry that's getting that. I really
Yeah.
don't. So it's kind of a dick swing there, which is cool. But we've done a lot of optimizing. And I actually just hired. I know I'm just rambling here, James, but I'm just trying to give you all the info. I just hired 4 different marketers. They're all stupid high caliber, and I'm pitting them all against each other, and they all know this. It's kind of like a gladiator battle between them. But the one that I think is going to win is she is the ex head marketer, the
Mm.
so she's just brilliant. You would love her. She's brilliant, and I really do think she's going to be the outlier. So it's just all said and done. This is what we're doing, and I'm moving the business into, instead of working with ecom offers and like all these little offers that no one's that proud of. They print money. Like we're doing amazing right now, but I don't see longevity in any of these spaces, and I know you know that as well. So I want to move into the medical space. I want to move into the oil and engineering spaces. I want to move into all these spaces that are not going anywhere, and then
Mm.
build things out. For example, in the oil space, you can sell drone services to oil rigs, right? Like that type of service. You can sell those for 100, 200, 300 grand. So it's just things like that I'm moving the company into so that we can raise the EBITDA and not be stuck in these weird spaces. So that's really, in a nutshell, what we're doing.
You hit the nail on the head there in that there are certain parts of industries that we've worked with that we're not proud of and that I don't think have longevity. I don't think ecom itself will have longevity. The
Yes.
internet's not going anywhere, but I think the ecom businesses in the nature that they are and the kind of ones that want our help, I don't think that they're worthwhile working with because they come and go too quickly and there are questionable things. And I've been saying now for a couple of years, the boring businesses like dentists, like
Yes.
lawyers, like doctors. I haven't even had a conversation about oil, but that's not going well.
Not for a
Not in
while.
our lifetime.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. There's so much opportunity there.
There is. Yeah, and it's just interesting because when I brought on the C-suite executives, we had that conversation about that. This is why they're here. We talked about the projections, the scalability for the company, the profit margins, what we want to do. We want to go for M&A. I do want to exit the company. Like that is something that, but I'm playing it smart. I'm going to build a branch off the company. Right now, we own a certain domain. I'm going to purchase the one word domain. That domain is like $1.3 million right now, but I think I can whittle them down to about 700 grand. But once I purchase that, that will be the B2B version of what I'm building here. This company can M&A and exit, and I can still do what I'm doing on the other side. So it's like an exit with a little bit of, you get your cake and you eat it too type thing. So that's what I want to do. Now, those things might change. I know a lot of like friends of mine that have gone and actually worked with Alex and Layla and built, funding companies and did all these things. They approached it with one mindset. Once they got all the consulting and did X, Y, and Z, they totally changed what, their master plan was. That may happen. I'm not opposed
Why
to
do you
that
think that is?
because of the lack of knowledge they had in what they were pursuing, and not even just that, it really came down to the scope of what it would actually take for them to achieve that. I think that I'm not the most knowledgeable person in the world. I think that there's a lot of people that know a lot more than I do, especially in the spaces that I'm attacking. And like when we look at guys that have sold companies for 100 million in the business world, that's not even big, right? Like those are still small fish. Even they will tell you, Alex will tell you he's a small fish. So there's guys way above that that might have more input on X, Y, and Z. So I don't think that I'm too ego driven to take advice from somebody that comes in and says, Nico, great plan, love it, but this isn't going to work this way. It's actually going to work this way. I'm open to that. So that's why I think that could change.
I also think you're hiring most of those people that'll give you those insights.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why, like I figured out where I am really good. My strength is piecing together teams and then acquiring. I'm really good at acquisition. But from there, all the little nitty gritty things, I got all these cool creative ideas, but my team is the one that builds those. Like I literally would be nothing without the team.
Mm,
I just be a guy with all these dreams. Like that doesn't, it doesn't equate to anything. So very
mm,
blessed and happy to have them around. But that need to have people that punch above the belt, especially above where I punch, was was huge. And I'm glad that I
mm.
took those steps. It was scary though. These people are very expensive. So
Yeah.
it was when I bit these people off, I was at a stage where it was like all the money I had. Like really,
Mm,
truly. It was like I was going to I think I was making like $2,000 a month when I started hiring them all like profit, dude. I was like scraping by. Now we're doing extremely well
mm,
and it paid off. But like that was a big risk to take.
mm,
And I just believed in what we were doing and they did too, and it all worked out. So
mm.
yeah,
It was a calculated risk though, because
totally.
you've done a lot of things before you even got to this point. You've had a lot of experiences.
You are 100% right. It was an extremely calculated risk. I thought the failure rate, I don't think about the failure rate. Obviously, if we all are very positive thinkers, but if I had to equate it, failure rate was only like 20 or 30% possibility,
Mm,
really. So yeah, it was calculated for sure.
mm,
But, things can blow up in your face. So
mm. What you
yeah,
said then about we're all positive thinkers, one thing I notice across the people that have longevity in the online remote information space or even the real world consulting space, if that makes sense. When I say real world, I mean speaking to the kind of people we just spoke about. They are all unbelievably optimistic. And if something fails, it's, well, what can we take from this? But the
totally.
next thing will work. And even if that fails, it's like, oh, okay, now I know why it failed.
Yep.
Let's do something even bigger. And I noticed that everyone's optimistic, and sometimes you'll have these conversations with people and be like, oh, well, it's not going to work for this reason, it's not going to work from this reason, perhaps, but at least I go in there knowing that. And those are the people, they'll come in and they'll bounce, they won't be able to stick it out.
It's amazing you said that. This morning I had a all hands on deck meeting with the team, and I went over the placebo effect because
Mm,
this week I don't, I'm pretty empathetic and attentive to personal situations at work too, and I understand.
mm,
But right now, I think I don't know. You know how these businesses work. The setters are, quite frankly, one of the most important positions in the company. They
mm,
really are because that's first contact with the prospect, and that energy from that person has to transcend through to the salesperson, who then can continue that energy
mm,
and close that sale. And we had a little bit of negativity from one of the head setters, and some personal things was going on and whatever, and I was attentive to that. But his negative attitude was so overpowering that I thought, you're actually creating a worse situation for yourself. And then, it transcended itself into the team in so many
mm,
areas. So I had that big talk with everybody today. I said, you guys know me. Some of you don't know my history. Some of you do. Some of you have been there with me through that, whatever the case. But you watched me always, no matter what, carry every single one of you all the time
mm,
with delusional positivity. Delusional positivity. Like it is delusional. But that's why we're here today, because I did that and I continued that and I don't stop doing that. And I will continue to do that. But I need you guys to be able to do that too. The placebo effect is so powerful because you and I could have a disease and take those sugar pills, and you don't believe in it and I do, and I will get cured. Why? Only because
mm,
my brain said that we're curing ourselves. So it's the same here. And I agree with you. I think some of the most wealthy people I know are delusionally positive. I don't think there's much room for negativity, you know. And failure, like you said as well, I agree with, is, I guess, rungs on a ladder, right? Like, so you know what? This is cool too, James. Like, to expand on that, I had a big talk with somebody the other day because I said they were trying to be a perfectionist about a project that we were launching, and I said, just throw out what you have. I don't even care what it
mm,
is. Just throw it out there, because then we get to see what sticks to the wall and build from that point. Optimize. We're in the game of optimizing, not
mm.
perfectionism. But I used to be such a perfectionist. Everything had to be perfect before I launched it. Well, then nothing ever got done.
Do you think
So
perfectionism is a form of procrastination?
yes, I do. And I think it's also a form of insecurity.
Mm. Yeah, you're afraid that if you put something out there, even if it's just in a, a workshop with your team to see, it has to be. Yeah, you're right. It is a form of insecurity because if you put it out there, even with your team, you're afraid to look in your eyes stupid. Whereas they just want to see, hey, let's go through the 65% done option, and then
Yep.
figure out how we get that final bit out.
And dude, that's an amazing point, because everything that I've built up into this point has been just throw it out there. And cross fingers, be
Mm,
delusionally positive, give people 65% because it's better than zero. Give them
mm,
something. And the team's amazing. They build off that and everyone puts their input and it just gets more powerful. And now I know like any ideas that I ever have in my head, I throw them into my directors of operations chat, or I throw them here, I throw them there, and the team expands. And I'm like, dude, if
mm,
we didn't have this mindset to all work together like this, nothing would ever get done. And
mm,
I have really the same company values as Nike did back in the day. Like we built them around what Nike did. But the first one is speed. The first value I have is speed. Speed is king. It is coming into 2025, moving slow, especially with AI and all these integrations. And like, good luck. You know, if
mm,
I'm, you could be twice as talented as me. If I move faster, I'll kill you.
mm.
That's just the way it is. That's what I think.
I think AI is making unintelligent people or perhaps slower people exponentially faster
Totally.
than those. And I think those that are taking their time at the moment to actually learn it, it is amplifying them to beyond human level.
Dude, so to speak on that, I used to build sales presentations. It used to take me a couple days, right? And then like I got really good at it. I could do it in a few hours, maybe 4 or 5 hours, 3 hours entirely, like until it's done. I just built one just before our call. I just finished like 2 minutes before. I was like, oh, I guess I was running a little bit late. Um, it took me 25 minutes, and it's like beautiful AI, all done
Yeah.
with AI. And then it goes to my editor. He builds it all out, done. So
So
I agree.
just on that as well, and we don't have to have this conversation now, but there's a feature in Claude that's been released. It's interactive dashboards where you can dump all of the data in Claude. It will create an interactive dashboard for your client, your prospect, whatever. So it
No
will
way.
basically create it. They can adjust the features, factors, amounts, and they can play with it. And it basically creates static website is not the right one, but basically a page, a link you send to them. It's a website page
It's like
where
a
these
landing
are all,
page.
yeah, a landing page. These are all the things that we're going to do. If we get to this point, these are your numbers. If we get to this point, these are your numbers. So they can
Oh,
actually
that's
have a play of
perfect.
like, well, if that's our guess, we're going to increase by 50% all of the numbers, but then they can grab the slider or maybe input a number. And if we get to 55%, whoa, 60%. So even things like that, normally that would take someone, what, half a day to put
Yeah,
all
for
of that
sure.
stuff in a spreadsheet, and they'd have to have 20 different options, copy that data into Claude, create me an interactive dashboard, and it'll go away and do it. So even things like that, so simple but so effective.
And is this is like a derivative of ChatGPT or what?
Oh, so Claude is. I'm surprised I haven't spoken to you about Claude. Everyone that knows me, I've talked about it to death. So it's basically a competitor to ChatGPT. So it doesn't sound like a robot. It doesn't use all of those words that ChatGPT does. So you know when you read something, you're like, "Oh, Chat did that."
ChatGPT. Yeah.
Claude is so much better at language as well as large data sets. So I can copy in thousands and thousands and thousands of lines and ask Claude to find the themes, concepts, information. I can ask it to write me information, content, or anything like that. It doesn't sound like a robot. It's so much better, in my opinion, than
So is it
ChatGPT.
CLAUDE?
Yeah.
That's sick, dude. I'm gonna be
Yeah.
all over that.
It's amazing.
That's awesome. How long have you known about it?
Uh, Probably nearly a year.
Okay, so it's been out for a while, but obviously now, cool that I see it now because it'll be very heavily optimized.
So it's created by a company called Anthropic, and
Okay,
they did. So you know how there's basically tests to figure out the power of AI, like what it's capable of.
totally.
Even their lowest model is more powerful than the highest model of ChatGPT,
Oh my god. Okay.
and it
And
was
it's
their.
funny that I never expected really. I always get stuck on the first model of something that releases, but I realize that there's companies that are going to come in and literally their only job is to optimize and be better than everyone else around them, which sounds
So
like
it was
this.
actually ChatGPT stuff that left and started Anthropic.
That's sick. Oh, that's
Mm,
super sick. I can't believe I didn't know about this because we're so like, man, I use it all day long. Crazy.
mm.
Tell me about you. You talk about me this whole time. What have you been doing?
Man, this whole podcast is about you. I bring people on that are switched on, that people can learn from, and the theme of it is on their terms. And I like to speak to people that are living life on their terms, and you are 100% the
Yes,
person that's doing that. And every time we've spoken, you have some really nice viewpoints, perspectives, angles. And I think what you embody, the way you conduct yourself, is exactly what's required for someone to be able to live on their terms,
I
for someone
appreciate
to be
that.
able to have that kind of life. But one thing you mentioned before, we didn't in on it, and if you're comfortable to speak about it, it'd be good. It was about the kind of experiences that you've had, because you weren't just born and dropped into the position now connecting with ridiculously high level people. You had a bit of a journey to get here.
Yeah,
What was that?
I did, man. I have God. I got dragged through the rocks so many times. Yeah, it's just interesting because I think like people think that getting to these positions, you don't even realize you're so zoomed in once you're here. It's just part of your daily life, and you're just continuously scaling. You get to certain numbers, and they're never enough, anyways. It really just becomes about. It's not about your personal life anymore or your personal income. It really just becomes about the company and the big goal that you're after. If you're after an M&A, that's a whole thing. Um, but back in the day, my God, I think we've talked about this before, James. But I had a bit of a rougher life, I guess, before. And I had to, I guess, figure out one day, hey, nobody's coming to save you. And I got into sales. I got into insurance sales, and I think I didn't do so well for the first 6 months. When I'd say not so well, probably talking $500 a month or less.
Mm.
And it's hard to continue to pursue through something new, especially when it's a big learning curve to you. And I think I was always naturally talented at maybe talking to people, cool, but I had zero sales experience. I didn't know how to sell anything. So
Mm.
learning that was really tough. But funny enough, and I'll say this because I think publicly people know this about me. I don't like Grant Cardone. I just don't like a lot of things about him. And I don't usually say anything about people that I don't like, but I don't like people to look up to him in certain ways for certain sales things, whenever it's outdated. We all know this. But he did change my entire sales career with one, I think it was a 45-second video. And that video was kind of like this. It said, the one that's doing all the talking is the one that's doing the selling. So, or sorry, the one that's being sold. The one that's doing all the talking is the one that's being sold. And he said, I guarantee in your sales calls, you're doing too much talking. I guarantee you're not asking enough questions. So I sat down with my insurance script and I thought about, hey, this whole script, based on what he said, is backwards. Okay. Like everything in the script is just me spitting information at these people. Let me take all these statements and turn them into questions.
Mm.
And this was a bit of a learning curve. It was a couple of weeks going back with I had a business partner at the time that we were, doing everything with. You're kind of learning everything together, and we would go back and role play for, dude, I'm telling you, like 12 to 14 hours a day. We go to the gym and we would just sit in my house and role play and role play and role play. So we did that. 2 weeks after, I made $12,000 in one weekend. I think I closed every single appointment I had that weekend. And it was, I remember the switch. When I turned everything into reverse and started asking the questions, it was like a light bulb went off. I think I'll remember that moment sitting at that desk in that house for the rest of my life, because right then I was like, this is how you do this. This is how you talk to these people. This is how you close somebody. They close themselves. So then, yeah, I came into, became a top producer in that company, created my own department in the company where at the time, James, we were buying our own leads. So you only got so many leads, and then you had to make closes and you had to buy more. The company actually had all these leads that they would just throw away, because what they were was people that canceled their policies, never got a payout, had some sort of disgruntled, mess with one of the agents or something, right? Some sort of negative something. And I thought, okay, well, if they're going to give me those leads, I went to the company and said, you have thousands and thousands and thousands, just give them to me. And they said, well, what are you going to do with them? Nobody can do anything with them. I said, no, I'm going to figure something out. So they gave them to me, and I sat there for a good 2 to 3 weeks, just creating scripting and flows and whatever, and getting on the phones, getting screamed at, people saying, hey, fuck you, I hate this company, and whatever, the worst things possible all day long. And then it clicked and I figured it out. And then I started making $2,000 a phone call, sitting in my bed in my underwear and not even being on Zoom calls, just phone calls. And so that was cool. So I developed that department in the company. We started getting all those people back on. I developed a little team and so on. And then I left insurance and I got into high ticket. And I'm not going to disclose who it was, but I came into somebody's company that's very well known in the industry. At the time, he had launched his entire business off of his organic. He had built a YouTube
Mm,
channel for about 2, 3 years. And I, keep in mind, had never done high ticket before. He hired me as a closer. His whole team, I think, collectively did. They were doing 500K months for about 3, 4 months, but the organic started to die off. They did not have their marketing, the offer, nothing really figured out. And his organic was so good. I mean, he could have sold them, bottles of garbage and they would have bought it, right? Like that's
mm,
just how good the organic was. Once it started to die, though, it's like, well, what are we building here? Like this isn't
mm,
a sustainable business. So when I came in, it was dying off. The whole team, um, they I think did about 150K that first month. I did 180,000 by myself. There was 5 other closers there. So when I came in and did that, I came from insurance where people didn't want to buy from you. They didn't
mm,
want to talk to you. They didn't want to give you the time of day to jump on a high ticket calendar where the person wanted to buy from you. The person was already excited to see you. All you had to do was not convince them that this was a bad idea. So I
mm,
thought, hey, this is easy. So I had a crazy close ratio. And I came in and I had a discussion with him about what we were doing here because I had a totally different script. I took their script and revamped everything. So I rebuilt the offer, built in a triage department, which I had learned from insurance prior. And we took that company to 1.1 million a month in 4.5 months. Um, so that was like my big break into high ticket. And I was just for sure luck, meeting the right person, the background experience I had, all those different things. But at that point, I was a little bit of a someone, I thought, at that, in the high ticket space. And then that just rolled into so many other things. And I started high ticket closing. I now at this point I did my highlight is I've done 10 million cash collected in 2 years, and I guess technically working part time. Some of those offers are between 150 to 200K and so on. But yeah, I just got really, 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 really good at
mm.
persuasion, and now here we are today. And I guess the publishing company that we built now to this stage, I ate shit for a long time, a lot of trials and tribulations. And I think you were a witness to some of those ups and downs as
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
yourself. But yeah, that's been the journey, I guess.
Mm. If we jump back to something you said a little bit earlier, you
Sure.
said when you were speaking to these people that were screaming at you and you're just getting yelled at for 2 to 3 weeks, you said something clicked.
Mm.
What
Hmm.
was it?
Can't remember. I remember standing in my kitchen, and I remember the phone call. I remember where I was facing. I remember all that on that click. It's just like that first time when it clicked for me on that computer at that desk. But I was talking to this lady, and I literally, I wish I could remember the phrase, but I've been trying so many different things about, calming somebody down that wasn't interested or didn't want to talk to me. And I wish I could remember the phrase, but I remember I used a certain phrase and it was a paradigm shift for her. She was like,
Mm,
oh, okay, yeah, we can have a conversation. It was the first time that I'd broken through. And so it was like it was a paradigm shift for me. And then I used it on the next call and it worked. And the next call and it
mm,
worked. And sometimes it didn't work, but it worked on about 80% of the calls. And then from
mm,
there, I was able to kind of break things down and be a total therapist, like almost like I wasn't representing the company that I was representing. It was almost like my whole shtick, I guess, was that I was here as like a retention representative to hear about their experience with the company and see how I can mitigate that for them, help them. And I'm really working for them, not the company. And that was my
mm,
whole, take on everything. Um, and that, you know, the way I was first delivering it was not resonating at all. And I didn't give up though. Like, man, I made like 1,000 phone calls probably before I finally figured it out, like 800 to 1,000 for sure. But then that was it. And then from there, I had about a 50% close ratio on those calls. And nobody in the company had ever done that.
and ringing leads that already hate you
Yeah.
is, I think that might go back, and I might be wrong, I might be way off. That might go back to the idea of the pendulum theory, in that it's so much easier for someone to swing back all the way towards you when they are completely the other way. And I think by you being in their corner, having that conversation with them, I was even on a call yesterday, and I didn't have any context. It wasn't the call that I thought it would be, and he was pissed because he didn't have this and he didn't have this, and you need to tell me, you need to tell me. And then it was like, look, you should have already had all of that already. What's the main reason you didn't get that? Well, it wasn't sent to me. It wasn't this, wasn't this. And because he was so pissed, I could diffuse him so unbelievably quickly because I understood where he was at. Whereas most people would like push, well, you didn't. It's like, no
That's right.
worries. How do we go about solving this? And
Yep.
then less than 5 minutes later, he's telling me about where he grew up and what he did and
Yep.
what he's trying to do and all of the things that he's been through. We had a great conversation, and that was a lead that even the setter messaged me and said, I don't like this guy. He's not a fit. He was really arrogant. He was really rude. The setter just didn't pick up that this guy didn't have what he needed. He was defensive because someone had outbounded him as
That's
opposed to
right.
him being inbound. He was just really defensive because in business, if someone calls you, the onus is on them to prove to a certain extent that they're worthwhile of a conversation, and that hadn't happened. And
Yep.
again, pendulum theory, he was swung all the other way. So much easier to do that, and I think you were just doing that at a much grander scale.
Yeah, I know. I agree with you, and I'm not gonna. When I sales train people today, they're like, "Oh my god, how'd you get your experience and everything?" And I was very lucky to be able to actually sit down and call thousands of leads all the time at my beck and call whenever I felt
Mm,
like it. That's really hard to find today, and I don't know a lot of industries that you can do that in besides insurance. So I got a power packed experience that maybe would take people 4 or 5 years that I really
mm,
got to do in 4 to 6 months. So
mm,
like that, but it took a lot of tenacity and a lot of diligence too. I think kind of what you touched on too is like how the setters reach out to people as well when they're outbound and they don't have those diffusion skills. Maybe a closer at a higher level like you or myself would call them and calm them down because we have that skill set. That setter has not developed that yet. Because I think again in the setting positions, they do deal with a lot of rejection, but they're not equipped with the tools on how to deal with that rejection properly. And it's pretty easy for someone to just pick up the phone and say all these negative words to you because you called them, right?
mm.
My phone's on D&D all day. Like if someone is calling, and I see those missed calls, I'm going to text them back probably something not so nice. Not really, but you know what I'm saying, right? The average
Mm.
prospect might be that way. So yeah, it's a tough thing for people to learn, but it's
The
possible.
only way around is through. The way that you get to that point is by just doing a lot of volume. And I see a lot of
Totally.
people, particularly when they try and bust into the high ticket space, they want to be a closer immediately. And I say this because this reminds me of a past version of myself. When I was in corporate sales, I did really well, but I was not good. And I only realized that once I came into the high ticket space that I was I knew how to talk to people, but I was not good at sales. And I didn't come and step into a closer role like I thought I would. I ended up hopping into an outbound cold setting role with an Excel spreadsheet of thousands of numbers. And there was no auto dialer, there was nothing like that. It was just I have to use my mobile, like or cell in US. And I just have to type in these numbers. And I started at 7 and I finished at 6. And I would just dial every day for months. And then what happened pretty quickly is they decided to make me a manager of the setter team, which I hated, which was not me, but that's the natural progression of things. But that so I had to do cold calls when I was in corporate, and I was terrible, terrible. But everyone in the team sucked, so I didn't realize collectively how bad we were. But we still did well because we were selling essentially a solution that was bespoke, no one else could do. But if I had have had that early in my career, if I had have had the opportunity not the opportunity because I nearly did. If I had have had that tenacity and at least someone to say that's what you need to do to be excellent in conversations in every area of your life, and someone that had have actually mapped that out for me, I would have done that a lot sooner and it would have been a lot easier for me. But
Yeah.
setters have a golden opportunity to completely change the trajectory. But a lot of people just get too uncomfortable with rejection in a week, 2 weeks, and they give up.
They do. And, James, even to expand off that point, I think this is something I tell a lot of my teams too. We know that analysis paralysis in today's world is just so much more prevalent than it was when we were a little bit younger and getting started
Mm,
in things because, like, I'll be honest with you, I have zero formal sales training, zero, nothing, not at all. It was just from conversations. But would I have had that if I did insurance? No chance. There's no
mm,
way. But I didn't sit there watching videos about how to not do this and how to do this and whatever. I literally, that 145-second video, amazing. I watched a couple of objection handling videos over my career, but that's it. I didn't sit there trying to watch Matt Ryder and then this guy and this guy and this guy. And oh, he says this and he says this. This is what I see with a lot of the new guys in sales. is there's that polarizing information, and we can go and Google anything and it'll tell you the two polar opposites are true. So I think that's where people find that they're trying to work smart and not hard. And when you're in sales, you can't just work smart, right? AI is not going to do your job for you. You got to have the tenacity. You got to make the calls. You got to have the conversations. That's the tough part about learning how to take rejection, I think.
Mm. I think there's a happy medium with it. And I think, as an example, I spoke to one fella at a locally here at a birthday party maybe a month ago, and he went from being an electrician, and now his brother runs a recruitment company, and his brother's just like, pick up the phone. He has no idea. He's fumbling. He was 3 weeks in, absolutely hating it, and he's just trying to pitch, but he can't do that. I said, well, if you peel it back a layer, all you're trying to do with these prospects initially is to see whether or not they could at any point have the need for what you're offering as a start point. So instead of trying to pitch someone that you don't even know that they need, ask them questions. And all you're trying to do is find that out at the beginning.
That's it.
Don't pitch them.
Yeah.
And even that little revelation for setters, knowing that they're going to do outbound, it's like, understand the basics of these are the kind of questions I need to ask. And this is why I'm genuinely trying to find out if this person has a need for what I'm offering. And if not, how do I set it up in such a way that they get hungry for what I offer? I think knowing that as a start point, that's what I'm going for instead of death by pitch. I think that makes it a lot easier.
I think you're 100% right. I think to encompass entirely what you said, jumping on the phone with somebody and not having in your mind that you need to set or sell this person, what the first thing in your mind should be, how do I help this person? That's a big mindset frame and a complete change. And I think it's not just for the setters, the salespeople as well. When you approach everything in the helpful mindset, usually goes in a pretty positive way, because they feel that too. It's genuine. I think if you're sitting there with some, nefarious intention, they feel that too. So yeah, I agree with that.
Mm. But it also goes back to the videos and everything that people have seen about sales where, your Wolf of Wall Street, do not get off that phone without a sale. And even your Grant Cardone videos where you see him in an office hovering over some guy with, a spiky fringe and everything like that,
Yeah,
saying, you die before you get off this phone. I
that's
think
right.
people see that and they think that's actually the way to go about it.
Yeah.
No, that is a marketing ploy to target people just beginning that want that sexy side of sales, but they're not prepared to go through the 2 to 3 years of absolute suck to get there.
Yeah, James, let me ask you this. Out of all the people you know in the sales industry that are the top performers, how do they actually work? How do they approach these sales situations? How do they approach these conversations? It's not like that.
It's not like that. And there are a lot of different styles, a lot of different strategies. And
There
every person I know that is exceeding, they are 100% authentically themselves. And that might be something they figured out on their own. But most of the time, it's over the years, they've picked up things from here, and they've made this, I'm not sure if the amalgamation is the right word, but they've created this thing that is uniquely themselves. They're not getting on the phone and just pitch. They're
Nope,
on there genuinely trying to help the prospect and asking them questions.
entirely. And I think one of my favorite people at this, really, and always has been, is Marco Cortese. I don't know if you've watched a lot of his stuff.
I haven't seen much of his, but I've heard a lot of people talk about him.
Yeah, and I think, it's the Australian background too, because Matt and him, but he's from Italy, but he came and had a bit of an Australian accent. But what I love about him, and I have a Polish girl that works for me, and she's got an accent. Beautiful girl, very articulate, very intelligent. But when she started with me, it was like her accent was a worrisome thing to her. So Marco has these videos out explaining how his accent is his superpower in sales. He was doing 1 million a month consistently, and he had the worst accent I've ever heard in sales. Like, it was so hardcore Italian, barely English when he started. And he used it as a superpower. And it was such a mindset frame, shift and everything, for somebody like that comes with an accent, because it's like when I whisper and you lean in to listen, right? It's like that same effect. He's able to use it that way. So when I watch him in sales, him outperforming the people that speak like you and I do, perfect articulate English, it's amazing. And his level of questioning and his mindset about coming into the sale and helping was huge. It also was, I guess, for him, the underdog effect. He would show up and people would be like, oh, this guy with his accent, like, he's not going to,
Mm.
whatever. And then he would come in with the most intelligent questions and have them really thinking about everything, and he would sell them. So, yeah, he's a very interesting person. I think if you haven't watched any of his older stuff, I can send you a few things. I think you'll like it, but he's a cool person to watch.
Mm. Mm. Definitely send that across. I'd like to watch that.
I will. Yeah,
Yeah.
I got a Google Drive folder for you.
You got a Google Drive folder
Oh
of
yeah, the
videos?
old school stuff, the stuff that you can't find.
Nice. All right. I'll give that a go. I will. I will. So at the start of the call as well, you said that you're working some really big days at the moment.
Yes.
What are you working on?
Oh, so many things, man. So my CSO is being onboarded into the company, and he's doing his process is I need to do a full sales audit of the entire company and everything we've done the last 4 to 6 months for him to really come in and give me the shift that I'm looking for. And that's fair, and I respect his process. But right now, I'm wearing so many hats in the company that I have to be in all these places at once, and I don't tell people, hey, sorry, I'm busy. I just do it. I don't tell people, I don't tell the team, hey, sorry, I wasn't able to get to this yesterday. I stay up till 1 in the morning and wake up at 4 in the morning if I have to. I don't care. So I wear a lot of hats. And I'd say the projects that we're working on, number one is external acquisition. So, I'm the one that has to go in there and do these external acquisition meetings with these new clients, showcase what we're going to do for them, how that's going to work, sign them, nurture them through that process, and so on. So that's one. The next is working on building out all the sales stuff for the company, including the presentations, the scripting, on top of the actual sales trainings, and then training some of the new reps. I have sales managers underneath me, but they're all amazing people. I love them. They're super coachable. Um, However, they're not at the level yet of experience that they need to be, and they still learn a lot from me. And I'm very happy to keep doing that. But the level of performance that we need from the company still requires my attention at a pretty granular level, things that I'm trying to remove myself from. And it will happen, James. Over the next 2 to 3 weeks, I'll be removed from 80% so I can focus on the 20% that moves the needle, as we know the 80-20 rule. But right now, I am doing the full 100%. And it's, you know, I'm not doing 100% of everything because I have my COO and I have my IT guys and I have everything in the background. If I had to do all that stuff, I think I'd be dead. But that really is kind of what the daily looks like. Call reviews. I use Fathom. I would shout out Fathom all day long. Where it was a year ago to where it is today, it's amazing. It doesn't replace me quite yet. In 6 months, I think I will be obsolete. It'll be smarter than me, more experienced, I would say. But yeah, right now it's an amazing call review sales tool that does help me reduce hours by 4 to 5 hours a day.
How so? Is it analyzing it according to metrics that you give it, or is it just collecting data and trends?
It can do both. Yeah, it's got preset metrics, and then we're actually so Fathom actually they also just took a huge private equity fund as well. So like they're massively. I'm so happy they're massively expanding that company. So this thing is just going to get put on steroids, which is amazing. But yeah, right now it has an AI feature where I've given the team the prompts so that they can actually go call review their own calls with Nico's prompts, so they can see. I've taught it what I want, and so now it knows what I look for specifically. So when they say, for example, how can I question this person at a higher level that is more relevant to them and their background, and be more effective in closing and making them comfortable. And you can prompt it like that, and it'll literally give you the Nico breakdown about how that works, which is super, super cool for them to go do call reviews on their own. And then it'll break down the entire call into, I can go in there and say, show me all the objections, and it'll give me all the timestamps for all the objections from the client. And then it'll give me how were they handled, and then I can ask how should I handle those instead, and it'll give the Nico version of how those should be handled. That part is not competitive with me yet, but it will be, I think, in the next 6 months. So that's where, God, it's amazing. It's my favorite tool right now that I use in sales, period.
What AI does Fathom? Does it connect back to OpenAI or?
I don't know. It's a good question. We can look into that.
Yeah, there's some really, really cool things you can do with call reviews as well with AI. So you can go through and figure out the metrics that you want to pull on. So one is emotional connection, two is objections, three is statements versus questions. And
Yes.
you can create one massive prompt and you can get AI to help you create the prompts for this. And then essentially you can score each of the, the areas. So emotional connection, what areas did I do well? What areas didn't I do well? And then you score each of them out of 10. So you can go through and think, okay, so there were seven areas of emotional connection that were out there. One was a 6, one was a 5, one was a 9. And then you can do this literally all in one big prompt and big response. What could you have done better in each of those situations? And I found that emotional connection, objections, as well as questions versus statements, I think that can connect the majority of the problems in a sales call. And that the goal is to get that average from maybe 5 or 6 for each area up to a 7 or an 8 or a 9. And if Fathom is collecting all of that data, and you would know a lot more about that than I would, you should be able to see some statistics across the team and just watch it slowly tick up, and you would then have the focus areas on what to
Just
target.
you got to show me a little bit about this because again, I'm pretty juvenile with the usage of AI. Like even my IT guy, when he comes in and we spend any time together and he shows me all these things, it's like I'm watching someone discover fire. I know the capacity is so beyond what I'm using it for.
Mm.
But what you're saying is really interesting because essentially I could have a central dashboard built that implements all that data so everyone on the team can see because it already does this on talk time. It does it on talk time where it shows Jasmine's talk time is this, Cody's talk time is this, like, and you'll see those percentage fluctuate. But why couldn't I take the rest of the data and do that as well?
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got to show me a little bit of this.
Yeah, well, I'll take you through it.
Yeah, that'll be
But
perfect.
again, I use Claude the majority of the time for that because it just gets
Right.
human behavior so it's a lot more conversational. And you can use projects, whereas instead of having to do the big prompts every time, projects is basically and you can do it shared for an environment where you have like your projects page and then you already have the ridiculously big prompt applied on the side. You can't see it, it's just you can see it in the first line of text. So Nico's gone through there and you've produced a prompt that's, you know, 10 pages long, that's everything you need. They don't have to worry about that. Then all they do is just copy their transcript in there, and then it'll do the analysis according to everything that you want. You would be able to do a version of that in Fathom, assuming it's connected to OpenAI. Uh, Whatever AI is connected to, probably be able to do something like that and then pull the data.
So what if, like, can't we integrate something like this with Claude technically?
You can. That's integrations is beyond my ability.
Yeah.
There would be someone, no, probably in the network that you have that would be able to do that, but there's no
Okay.
reason that you wouldn't be able to create even a bot that, as soon as the transcript is up, copies it across to Claude, does the analysis, and then takes that data back and then rips the volume, or maybe get it to automatically create a dashboard on the results. There would be something you'd be able to do there.
My IT guy is funny enough, he's a specialty in AI, but he's been so bogged down as the captain of the AI team or the IT team. He's not been able to use his creativity in helping us
Mm.
with certain things, which over the next, I think, 2, 3 weeks, he'll have a little bit more of his time back. He had to come in and put out so many fires, but he's really competent with that stuff. So I'm going to hand him this project.
I have someone else that I could connect you
Yeah.
with, so that I have an AI guy that teaches me
Beautiful.
everything, and I'm nuts about AI. But every time I hop on a call with him, I'm just looking like, I know I'm going to understand this in a week. Just
I love
pay
it.
attention. And he actually does a little bit of AI consulting. He was the first guy I had on this podcast, Dave Katagi. He's
Okay.
working with some pretty big masterminds in the US as well. He's
That's awesome.
unbelievably good, so smart, and he's done so much training around human behavior, NLP, sales, everything like that. He can
Beautiful.
actually bridge that together. So I'll connect you with him after this.
Yeah, I would love that. That would be perfect. If he can come in and look at what we're already doing and optimize that, because again, we are in the stage of just constantly optimizing. That would make everyone's life just a little bit easier.
Mm, mm.
Yeah,
AI
it'd be
makes
amazing.
everyone's life a lot easier. So what you say about Fathom saving you 4 to 5 hours a day, 1 hour, 1 hour on Claude, I'll say, would save me a good 30 to 40 hours of work that I need to. It's crazy. That's
Okay.
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
see that's just again, this ties into the company value, which is speed, right? Like
Mm.
efficiency, speed, all these things. We've talked about this so many times, but I know James, you and I completely align on this. Anybody that is not going to adapt and use AI and just stay old school, see ya. You're left in the dust. That's just the way it is.
I started working with an AI company probably 2.5, 3 years ago now, and they were the market leader, and they would take a person's social media content and take all of that in and then create a version of AI of them that is completely indistinguishable from them. So content at scale, and then they created basically, reels from content that it created, and it was phenomenal. They had the first mover advantage. Unfortunately, they shut down to pivot, and they lost that momentum that they had. But 2 to 3 years ago, I was in the driver's seat, or at least the passenger seat, watching someone at the beginning of AI just crushing everyone. There was no one even close. I compare what you can do now compared to what they were doing then, night and day. And it's moving so fast. So I'm fortunate enough to have seen that, and then have people like Dave that are kind enough to kind of let me in the slipstream, if that were to be. And the saying that the company had, you will not be replaced by AI, you will be replaced by someone using AI.
Yes. Yes, I've heard that so many times. And we've talked about this too. Like AI, I have a friend who's built an AI that actually takes over for the entire operations for logistics companies. It does everything. Like there is no more need for dispatch. There's no more need for, they can reduce their staff by 80%.
Whoa.
The company is going to take the logistics, world by storm. It's actually amazing. It is amazing. And I don't know what AI basis they are off of, but they took one of the engineers from Uber to come over and help build this whole thing. And he had a C-suite position there to come over here. So it's really powerful
Mm,
to be able to do those things and reduce and whatever the case. But they even said this is not going to take over for the human-led positions that we all thought it would. Even
mm.
for salespeople, it's not going to take over for salespeople, not the same way. You're not going to have that same emotional connection, not over the next little while. So there's just certain things where certain
I think it'll
applications
come
where
quicker than you think.
what's that?
I think it'll come a lot quicker than you think.
I think so too. I think it's going to come a lot quicker than we all think. But I think all the people that thought, "Oh, my jobs are going to be replaced on a on a white collar level," not really. It's going to be more at the blue collar and production levels and all those different things. Where right now I'm watching it take over the logistics industry. All those people are going to lose their jobs as soon as this stuff is done. They don't need to do it. So it's just interesting. But yeah, I think you're right. I think the progression is monumental and exponential within 6 months, even. So it's fast.
So the thing to pay attention with this, if you are a creative, you can be god level creative if you adopt AI yesterday. And if
Yeah,
you roll with it, it can make you would remove the need for you to have a 50-person team. But if
totally.
you don't adopt it, you're gone. And I think with
Yeah,
salespeople, the limitation at this point is video. It's not real, and it's a long way away from being real. But voice is unbelievably accurate. Now,
sure.
the problem that I had was, or the hesitation that I had, and this is still new and it still blows my mind. Say, for example, you like the way you conduct yourself. You like the language that you use, that you like the way you speak, you like your product knowledge, and you wish that you could hire a team of 50 of you. But the problem with AI up until this point is the language models have been limited to the language models, which uses words like delve and uncover and magic. Whereas now, I don't know if I can share the full details yet because I know it's his special sauce, but a friend of mine has now figured out how to basically take someone's content information, the way they speak, the way they write, everything like that, and you dump a ton of information into a language model. And then what you do is, instead of relying on the Claude AI or ChatGPT or Gemini or something like that, the way that speaks, you can take all of this information and you can perfectly recreate this person down to like not just like the voice and style is nothing in today's terms, down to like what they are at the spiritual and being level. Like you can peel them back in a whole like 5 or 6 different matrices and models down to the core of what their beliefs are, and then on the back of that, all you need is, I mean, as a like chat on a website, easy done. You can just plug that in. Now, the only limitation now is that thinking time for AI for voice. So you hear the AI calls, and you hear that slightly too long hesitation. Once they can speed up that thinking time, which they're almost there now with the new models, you will be able to have 50 setters like you that speak like you, think like you, answer like you in split time. But you'll never, sorry, you're a long way away from being able to replace the face.
So, what do you think, as far as a timeline goes, for the setters to be able to do that?
There are some companies now that are already saying they can do that, but they can do the voice, but they don't have the right language model. But the only person I know that is able to do the language model, like he's light years ahead of anyone else with it. And I spent a lot of time looking at this. It's when he decides that that's ready to go to market and he partners with a voice company. And I think, what is it, 11 Labs, or is that the video?
Yeah.
Whatever the voice one is, you can replicate your voice, no worries at all. It's whenever he joins that together. And I'm sure he's got the advantage now. More people will be thinking of it, but it's so much more powerful than you think.
See, that's amazing. Because even like the one I was telling you about with the logistics company, when you call this thing, it's pretty remarkable. Like
Mm,
it's not quite as powerful as you're talking about, but it's still. I remember us all looking at AI maybe 6 months ago, and I was like, yeah, okay, it
mm,
sounds like a little bit better than a robot. Now it's like really, really, really close. And if you're
mm,
telling me that it can do this at the language model level, it would be unrecognizable then at that
mm.
point.
You want it to be completely indistinguishable.
Yeah.
And the limitation of AI at this point, so say for example, someone were, I were to take all of my content, put it in AI and say, make me more. The only limitation that has is I'm giving it boundaries as you need to make content within these boundaries. Whereas if the reason I consistently write more is I'm learning more. So therefore, there are more topics that I'd like to speak about. There are more angles and information that I'd like to share. That all goes back into an AI, and that can do all of the heavy lifting on what it knows, but it can't. It can think outside of that, but it can't. The more data in there, the more it can predict what I'm going to do, but I'm consistently adding it in. And I think the mistake people make, particularly at the beginning, is they just say to AI, write me content about this in my voice and style, but it can't capture that. Whereas now, the more information, the more content you have, you can absolutely replicate that.
So we're months away,
Yeah.
really. That's amazing. Because I know, like you said, I mean, the video stuff we know is, to have a replacement of you or I on a video
Mm-hmm.
with somebody, we're probably a few years away from that.
Yep.
Um, but the voice thing, I mean, we used to crush sales calls on the phone. So if it's that good, we can move the models over there anyways. There's no
Mm,
need for the video. We'll
mm.
see. I'm very
There's
excited to see.
even a new AI. What's it called? It's a video one. It's actually by OpenAI, and there's a story. You've probably heard it a dozen times. There was a fella in Hollywood building like a multi-million-dollar studio. He was a quarter of the way through it, stopped it because what OpenAI has just produced is you can create video content that is so realistic for scenes, movies, everything like that, that you don't need to do all of that in-person stuff. It
Right.
can just create it from a prompt. But anyway, I could talk about AI forever. I love it.
No, it is, James. It is an amazing thing to have an infatuation with today.
Mm,
I think a lot of kids should be into it as well because that is the future. We have no way around that. The people that are running and hiding from it, good luck with the
mm,
future.
mm.
I
So,
agree.
a question that I've been meaning to ask from the beginning.
Sure.
You were connecting, you said you were connecting with some really high profile individuals.
Yeah.
How do you do that? What's your process?
It's a funny process. It is actually funny, counterintuitive. So the world really is about who you know and who they know, right? So how far away are you from X, Y, and Z person? How many phone calls do you have to make to get to that person? And really, for me, it was about meeting the right people that knew those
Mm,
people. So um, I guess the sauce is we do use a lot of women in a lot of different spaces that we're friends with that are extremely well connected.
mm,
A lot of people in the fitness industry that I know that train celebrities and do X, Y, and Z. They connect us with a lot of people, and so it was more about, hey, I'm going to call this girl that I know, and she's one phone call away from this super high caliber person. Can I coach her and teach her about what we do to go and make that offer to X, Y, and Z person? So we've perfected that process. And now at this stage, it's very easy for me to get connected with almost anybody that I want to talk to,
mm.
obviously within reason. But you'd be surprised, how high up that chain that goes.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's all about the kind of people you're connected with. And you have, isn't that interesting? You have PTs or trainers out there that are connected with these people and they're basically sourcing these people for you.
Completely. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know if I can say this on the podcast, but there's like the A list of the A list billionaire person that is trained by one of my clients who's a fitness trainer, and that transcended into a billion things. Um,
Mm,
and this, yeah, I mean, she charges this person $30,000 a month to train her. So it's just she deals with very, very high caliber clients, and it all comes down to like who you meet when you go out and whatever. Like I'm not a, yeah, I'll be honest with you, I am a social introvert. I would say people that actually really know me truly, I am introverted for sure. Now I
mm,
have no problem being extroverted in the job and on meetings and what I need to do, but I'm not a big, I don't go out and do all those things. But when it comes down to work, I'll go to events. I will go and network. I'll go to galas. I'll go to, ClickFunnels events. I'll do whatever. And you just strike up conversation with these people like they're a nobody. And, that was a big asset too. So yeah, it's just, really comes down to the network. It's
mm,
yeah,
mm. Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, this has been fun. I've enjoyed this. Thanks for coming on, and you have shared
of
some
course.
absolute bombs on here,
Thank you.
and I appreciate your time.
No, of course, James. Always a pleasure. We will chat soon.
We will talk to you shortly.
Okay. Take care, brother.